Hey guys, we are back with another reaction video. As always, give it a like and a share if you enjoy this. Make sure that you hit subscribe so you do not miss these weekly videos, which I bring to you every single Friday. So let's make it happen. Hit the subscribe button below. Let's get stuck straight into it. So, give you a little sneak preview there. I was asked to add some great comments last week, so I really appreciate you guys for doing that. And yeah, it was great to review the great man, Mr. Denisov. And he commented on the video, and it was said thank you for bringing back some great memories, which was really, really cool. So today, I've just give you a little sneak preview because I'm a bit of a technological idiot, so I clicked on the wrong button. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So I found a really, really cool video, and I believe it is by Mikhail Marshek. Now, if I've got that wrong, feel free to call me out. But he's got a channel called Kettlebell Sport, and he's took two videos of the two Evans, the two pioneers of Kettlebell Sport, from recent history. Two phenomenal lifters, two absolute gentlemen. This video's 2018, I believe. I was there at the Evans performance in Latvia, yeah, Dalvagspils. Again, apologies if I'm butchering that. But yeah, really, really cool jerk battle. The reason why I wanted to get this video is because people have been asking me about doing comparisons between different styles. And like I said, I'm a bit of a technological idiot. So trying to get two videos side by side so I can do a bit of a comparison, I'm still trying to figure it out. So if anybody wants to give me some lessons in exchange for some kettlebell feedback, hit me up. I will figure it out though. I'm not going to be deterred by this, okay? If I need to learn from my 13-year-old daughter, I'll do it. You know, I'll learn from anybody. But anyway, let's get stuck straight into it. This is a real quality video. I haven't watched it all. I just sort of clicked on certain bits just to make sure it looked all right. And also positioning my skinny ass northeast of England pea head, where to put it. Do you know what I mean? So I was just trying to figure it out. So I haven't watched this video. I've seen the different performances in different videos, but I haven't seen them combined. So I'm going to break them down. So let's get stuck straight into it. Let's have a little look. Let's make sure I can click the right button this time. It's always a start, isn't it? It's always a start. So, FYI, this is a young-looking Ivan Markov. And the boy's grown a little bit more over recent years, you know. But I remember watching this performance. Now, if you don't know, on the left-hand side, you've got the main man, which is Ivan Denisov. Absolute legend of a bloke. Really cool guy. Phenomenal lifter. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of having him in my gym and in my house a few times as well. He stayed with me while doing some competitions, and yeah, he's a really, really cool guy, very knowledgeable, knows his stuff. So let's get stuck straight into it. Now, one of the key things that people always talk about with Denisov is, like, for such a big man, such a strong man, the guy, I think I read it best, he's like a Rolls Royce, such with a massive engine, but has been made as economical as possible, because nobody flogs a Rolls Royce around, do they? They drive it as economical as possible. It's a head turn, and Ivan's kind of like a super, super powerful guy, real strong guy, but super smooth when it comes to his lifting. So this is Ivan Markov. This is 2018, so this is kind of like 5 years ago now. So his lifting style, I wouldn't say it's changed massively. I'd say he's probably a little bit more aggressive with how he attacks the bells and getting underneath them. But I think the two things to look for here is look at the depth of second dip through both athletes. So the way Ivan's catching them quite high there. It might be the video, but that's the biggest thing that looks out to me is look at how Markov is really whacking himself under the bells, and then look at how Ivan's catching a little bit higher in comparison. I'm not saying he's catching them high, but in comparison. So that's kind of the first thing to look at there. So the next thing is also kind of looking at the shoulders, looking at what's happening here in terms of their fixation point. So obviously shoulder mechanics are a big thing about being a successful jerk athlete, and or how you jerk the kettlebells and how finding the technique that works for you. It's all ultimately dependent on your biomechanics and how you are structured. So Ivan has got Markov, is really, really good in terms of his shoulders are really back and the way he can kind of sink. Ivan, you can kind of see it straight up and there's no forward or moving back with the bells. So you can see how Ivan sort of catches with his chest forward and he's really extending through the thoracic, and as he stands up, there's that slight movement. So this is all just about shoulder mechanics here. So look at how overhead there's just a slight movement forward. So he's able to catch with his chest through. Now, if we look at Denisov is straight up, straight down. There's no kind of forward movement. There's no lateral movement. Neither of them got lateral movement. They're straight up and straight down. Now, who's right and who's wrong? Both phenomenal lifters. Both were the absolute world record holders. So, you know, it's what's right for your body. And this is why I always go back to the principles of lifting. You know, the key thing is getting that line straight up and straight down with the bells. How you get there and the end point on how you look is going to be dependent on your physiology. So when I'm coaching fixation, I'm not saying you need to fixate like this, you need to fixate like that. As long as the bells are completely still and overhead and you aren't straining, you haven't got cracks in the elbows and you're not sort of wobbling them around all over, your shoulder anatomy is going to depend on, it's going to be individual to you. So where it looks is going to be completely individual to you. So one thing that also is worth kind of considering is looking at kind of the foot stance as well. Doesn't look like there's a lot in it, but Ivan's got a wider base, which gives him a lot more stability, whereas Ivan's a little bit narrower, just slightly wider than shoulder width apart. And you can kind of see Markov's quads there. Not saying Denisov's got small quads by any stretch of the situation, but just have a look at kind of relying on the speed and the power directly straight underneath them. Whereas Ivan, because he's got that slider wider base, can't even speak, he's a little bit more stable. So that's kind of the trade-off. So narrower, a little bit more force and a little more power. So relying on that speed. When you go wider, you're sort of going a little bit more stable with the bells. Who's right and who's wrong? Again, it's all dependent. And you've got Valentin Ergarov getting in the way. So down in front. So we're over halfway now of these sets. Kind of looking at neck and neck for reps. Denisov's kind of a couple of reps in front. We've just got a better angle now, which is really cool. One thing that I would say is when you look at the launch point of when Denisov sends the bells up, he's kind of leaning back as he's coming up. There's more of a backwards lean. He's not purposely, but you can kind of see as he's launching up from that position, there's a slight lean back. When Markov's sending them up, it's a little bit more of a vertical torso. I'm not talking massive amounts, but again, a vertical torso. So because he's got that mobility to punch his chest right the way through, he's able to stay a lot more straighter in that line position. Whereas if we have a look at Denisov, it's like almost like the hips are coming forward. There's a slight lean back as he sends it up into that from that first dip, and he's sending it up, which will probably bring into a little bit more push through the upper pec muscles a little bit, where he's not going to be really pushing that much through that, but it's just in terms of the angles and the positions there. So what are we on? We're on just under 7 minutes now. So we've got Denisov slightly ahead in this. And just watching both of them, super cool, man. I remember watching this live and watching Markov lift live was just like phenomenal. Like, you know, such a strong guy, and so focused. One of the key things there, what you start to see now, if we have a look at Denisov on the left hand side, because his second dip is catching a little bit higher than Markov, we see a little bit more tricep action, and as we get later in the sets, we have a little bit more movement overhead with the bells, and that's probably just because the triceps are really tiring out. Just because he's catching that a little bit higher in comparison. So again, I'm not talking massive amounts, and again, the reps are absolutely phenomenal. So it's not to say one technique is better than the other. It's just a complete comparison. I don't know if I've stressed that about 50 times, but I'm going to keep on stressing it before somebody says, oh yeah, but Steve, that lift is better than theirs. It'll always be better than what you can do. Yeah, I know that. But I just I'm going to stress this point. I am not taking anybody's technique as crap. I'm just saying the differences, all right? So let's have a look. Let's have a look at Ivan on the left-hand side. So can you see how the second dip is not as deep as Markov? So there's a little bit more work on the tricep. Now let's have a look at the right tricep. Probably like left on the look on like the left-hand side on the screen, but the right tricep there, we can kind of see how that's really working hard, and we're starting to get that little wobble overhead a little bit in terms of that instability. So the movement overhead from Markov is still from just where he punches his chest through, and the kettlebells move slightly forward. He doesn't sort of fix, just a slight movement from when he's coming from second dip into the amortization phase of when he's just moving back into fixation. Now coming up to the last minute now. So we can start to see if Denisov's elbows really starting to challenge and really starting to push. He's obviously keeping his head up. Head position is going to be crucial as well. Obviously, Markov's just staying straight, punching his chest through, keeping working. Ivan's looking up slightly, which again, as we lean back, we'll bring a little bit more of the pecs into it. But, you know, they've been going at like 18 reps a minute. So you're allowed to be tired when you got 18 reps a minute with the 32. Now, that's a key thing there. I want to pause that. So let's have a little look at that. Let's have a little look. So I talked about the triceps really starting to work on Denisov. And obviously he's had to shuffle in there. Did you see that? Let's go back a few seconds. I don't want to miss this. So this is the thing when you go wide. You've got to think, I'm going to pause it here because I don't want to miss these reps. So when you go wide, what you tend to find is if you have a wider base of support, and I'm speaking from experience because I've gone to a wider stance now, what you typically find is if you think you are constantly pushing force up and down, what happens is you move across the platform. Your feet get wider, or you find yourself fully shifting to one side. You move across the platform. And it's either a plus or a minus of, it's one of the trade-offs you get from going on a wide stance. So if you think about it, you're in that position triangle, that force is going up and down. So what is it going to do? It's going to push out. It's going to stress that structure, right? Obviously triangle's a strong structure, but because you keep on pushing it out and there's that variability, as you push up, you might be just flaring the heels out. And that's why they go a little bit wider. So if we look at earlier in the set, if we look at where Ivan started on the platform compared to where he finishes later on, and let's have a little notice of where Markov is on the platform. So if we go to like here, look at that. Look at the difference. So if we go back, look, there's kind of a full foot width that's moved. As Denisov's been working, he's gradually just been creasing out to the left. Now, obviously, one of the things to consider is, one, as you're going up, the feet are moving out, so you're going to be stressing different musculature if you're your base of support is going wider. You're going to be challenging your legs a little bit, but also like it's nearly off the edge of the platform. Do you know? So that's something to consider there in your mindset and your mentality is what are you, how are you going to react if you're getting close to the platform? And if you're getting close to the edge of the platform and you get told to move, and or you get worried or you can feel it underfoot, man, like dragging that foot feels like you're lifting like 10 ton of concrete, or it did for me anyway. But if you look at Ivan, if we look at where he's at, we had a different camera angle. So if we look at where he's at compared to here, there's a little bit of movement. Yeah, a little bit of movement, not as much, not as pronounced. But you got to think, if you're coming through your forefoot for like 10 minutes, you're going to have a little shift. And just think about how the hips operate. I'm not going to go too deep on the biomechanics and stuff. And there's guys out there with force plates who can do a bit more of an emotional time motion analysis and look at where the force distribution is over time. But like, look at it. Like, what does your femur do? It's not just a up and down. There's always rotation. Look at the way the quads work. Look at the way the hamstrings work, the striations and how they contract. You do have rotation. So when you're coming on the ball of the foot and launching through the quads, there's going to be a chance when you're going to be shifting either left and right, just because of the nature of the musculature and what's happening through the pelvis and stuff as well, you know. So that's just really interesting to have a look at, like how Ivan's getting close to the edge of the platform there. And like I say, wide base, you typically find people who go wider, you tend to find it gets wider and wider as the set goes on. And as you get closer to the platform, they have to kind of bring it in. But if you're still going at like 18 reps a minute, yeah, man, whatever works. So we're coming up to the last minute now. Now, I like I say, look at that left tricep of Denisov now. Really having to work to stabilize. And because of the angles and the way Ivan's quicker getting down, and he pulls his body down, there's less going through the triceps. Where if Ivan Denisov catches a little bit higher, and because he's leaning back a little bit more, he's having to push through and utilize the triceps that bit more in comparison. So really cool, really cool. So you see that, look at that, see that rep there. Now as the tricep starts to give out, struggling to lock out is really tough, and we can kind of see how much the triceps are really having to work. So look at that left tricep, it's coming up any rep now. It's a real strain. There. So that's like kind of a no rep because it'd be classed as a press out. It needs to be one continuous movement going up. So look at Markov. Markov is still straight up and straight down. There's still work going through the triceps, but it's less of a press, and he's still pulling the body down. Absolute phenomenal set. Absolutely phenomenal. I just want to watch the last couple of seconds of that again. So last 30 seconds. Triceps already sort of giving in for Denisov. Markov still pulling in and pulling the body down. So real struggling to lock out there for Denisov there. Look at the difference. Vertical torso compared to that little bit of a lean back. And again, you lift into your musculature. You lift into your anatomy. Okay. Absolute incredible lifting. 176 reps each. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Pushing through. So arguably, that's it. There we go. Absolute fantastic lifting there. Just incredible. Really incredible. So one thing that we can take away from that is when you look at different styles and when you look at different techniques, I talk about the principles a lot, and I will do a video on the principles and what I mean by that. But when we look at what it is we're trying to achieve. We're trying to get that nice straight line, okay, first and foremost. But how you get there is going to be dependent on your makeup, your physiology, what's happening with your mechanics. Now, I've met both athletes, both incredible guys, both incredible athletes. Different structures, just different anatomy. So they lift to the strength of what they can. I'm not going to go out there and copy Markov's technique or copy Denisov's technique. Because my makeup is completely different. But what can I take away from that? Well, if I look at that and I break it down, well, I can see that, right, what are the principles here? If I've got a shallower second dip, then I'm probably going to be utilizing my triceps a little bit more later in the set. If I'm able to pull my body down, probably able to stabilize through a catch from a bit more of an upright posture, upright position. So I'm a little bit more vertical, which is cool because the bells are going in a straight line. But as it goes overhead, I catch, there's going to be a slight movement forward. So again, which one's going to be better for me? It's going to be dependent on my mobility and what is going to be better in the long run. Everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses depending on training age, training history, what you've done in the past, etc., etc. Again, it's all dependent on the individual. So, two phenomenal lifters going kind of neck to neck. And I know Markov's went on to break that record. It's just fantastic lifting, just absolutely incredible. But both, and this is the beauty of kettlebell lifting, both body types were able to produce great results. Why? Because we were able to follow the principles, which was produce just enough force to send the kettlebells up and then catching them, and those kettlebells are going in a straight line, and it's conservation of energy in and around that. Okay, so again, hopefully you've enjoyed that video. I enjoy watching that one. It's just super cool to watch those videos side by side, and I will work out how to do it a little bit more so we can get some cool videos like that and some comparisons. So drop some comments down, guys. Give it a like, give it a share, give me some feedback. What do you want to see next? What do you want to see me talk about? Is there anything in there that you disagree with? Is there anything that you think, no, actually, that is not what you were talking about there? Or what do you want to see next? Drop them in the comment section. Make sure that you do subscribe so you do not miss out on any videos that are coming up in the coming weeks. Okay, guys? But until next time, have a great one. I've absolutely loved it. All the best. Keep lifting.